All right, Shalom. First off, I want to give all praises to Yahweh Bashem Yahushai. Uh, double honors to the apostles and elders of GMS. Shalom to the elect. As you can see here, I've got this article. The elder Gabar, Apostle Gabar, had mentioned this article a while back. As you can see, the title is "They Are Still Our Slaves: A White Man's Perspective on Black People." Now, like I said, he had mentioned this article a while back. I had read it and I decided to do a video on it right now. So I'm gonna just go right into it and start reading it. All right. It says, for those of you who have heard, I'm gonna just read from where the letter actually starts. All right. Once again, this title is "They Are Still Our Slaves: A White Man's Perspective on Black People." So this is what you so-called white people, who is known as Esau, or AKA the devil in the Bible, AKA the red man. This is what he speak. This is what he thinks about the so-called Negroes. Well, not only the so-called Negroes, pretty much what he thinks about all of Israel, which consists of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Native Americans. All right, let's put that in perspective as well. So it reads. It says, um, the title is "They Are Still Our Slaves." We can continue to read, and also I'm gonna tie this in with the scriptures. All right, because all this is everything goes back to the scriptures. All right. Now it reads, "We can continue to reap profits from the blacks without the effort of physical slavery. Look at the current methods of containment that they use on themselves: ignorance, greed, and selfishness." All right. Now, when I read, we can continue to reap profits from the blacks. In my mind, I just put in all Israel, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and Natives, because the so-called white man, or the elites of this society, they view all of us, all of Israel, as the same. You know, even though this letter is trying to single out uh, Jake, or the so-called blacks. This is how the so-called white man feels about all Israel. All right, but what he's saying is I'll just read it again. It says, "We can continue to reap profits from the blacks without the effort of physical slavery. Look at the current methods of containment that they use on themselves: ignorance, greed, and selfishness." All right. Now it reads on to say, "Their ignorance is the primary weapon of containment. A good man once said the best way to hide something from black people is to put it in a book." All right. It says, we excuse me. It says, "We now live in the information age. They have gained the opportunity to read any book on any subject through the efforts of their fight for freedom, yet they refuse to read. There are numerous books readily available at Borders, Barnes& Noble, Amazon.com, not to mention their own black bookstores that provide solid blueprints to reach economic equality, which should have been their fight all along, but few read consistently, if at all." Now that has some truth to it, okay? Because as you know, niggas, spics, and Uncle Tomahawks as a whole, we don't read. All right, we don't have any knowledge, and that goes back to the scriptures. It says here, I'm gonna bring out this Isaiah 5:13. It says, "Therefore my people are gone into captivity because they have no knowledge," and that's true. Back then, we had the knowledge of the law, statutes, and commandments that were given to us through the spirit of Moses, by the hand of Moses. And we didn't keep them. We didn't follow them. We chose to follow other gods, other beliefs. We chose to follow the heathen ways instead of the ways that were given to us by the Most High. All right. So we didn't have any knowledge in that. And that was the reason why we went into captivity, pursuant to the curses. Okay, pursuant to the curses. Now, I didn't have the scripture on hand, but I'm gonna get it anyway. That's just to expound on that a little more, right? This is Tobit in Apocrypha. This is Tobit, chapter 3. Where is it? Verse 4, right? It says, For they obeyed not thy commandments. Wherefore thou hast delivered us for a spoil, and unto captivity, and unto death, and for a proverb of reproach to all nations among whom we were dispersed. Right, so there you go. We didn't follow the commandments that were given to us by the Most High. So guess what? The Most High gave us up into captivity and onto death. All right. And it says also, and for a proverb of reproach to our nations among whom we were dispersed. That also proves about the foreigners. Okay, but that's another show. All right, but that's just another reason why we went into captivity, because we didn't hold on to the knowledge that was given to us. All right. So back to the letter. So that's just one way that Israel as a whole, we hold ourselves back. But furthermore, I want to stress that's all part of the curses. All part of the curses in Deuteronomy. All right. So, I'm gonna just continue. It says, and this is greed. This is the second part, right? It says greed is another powerful weapon of containment. It says blacks, since the abolition abolition of slavery, have had large amounts of money at their disposal. Last year, they spent $10 billion during Christmas out of their $450 billion in total yearly income. Any of us can use them as our target market for any business venture we can dream up. No matter how outlandish, they will buy into it. Being primarily a consumer people, they function totally by greed. They continually want more with little thought for saving or investing, and that pretty much explains our people. Our people are into, but you know what? This is fucking so-called devil Whiteman when he constructs his society as so. He makes this go off. You see the pride of the so-called white man. Here it is. He's saying that we don't have any education and money, when the school systems and what they promote on TV is designed that way. We at camp, the elder was going into how on stations that primarily are watched or listened to by Israel, you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and natives, that their message is totally different from the other stations, like the so-called white stations. All right, on BT or Hunt 97 or one of those shows where primarily Jake listened to, you can see the morality of the music is totally low. It's feeding our people garbage, and guess what? Our people feed into that because that's all they listen to. But if you watch or listen to a white show or so-called white a white radio show or a music station, you don't hear those messages. All right. But here it is, the so-called white man wants to say, yeah, this is what they spend their money on, and they have no knowledge in money, when really the whole system that they're controlling is designed that way. All right. It further reads, they would rather buy some new sneakers than invest in starting a business. Some even neglect their children to have the latest Tommy or Fubu, and they still think that having a Mercedes and a big house gives them status, or that they have achieved some dream, right? So it says they would even neglect their own children, right? I'm gonna go to Deuteronomy 28, verse 56. It says, the tender and delicate woman among you, which should not venture to set the sole of her foot upon the ground for delicateness and tenderness, her eye shall be evil toward her husband of her bosom, and toward her son, and toward her daughter. Right? So this is what so-called women, they do. They would rather, and it's true. Why? But that all goes back to the curses. That's all part of the curses. It's just, you see, the so-called white man wants to think that he has a hand in everything, when really he's just a tool used by the Most High to do what he wants to do. All right? And what the Most High wants the so-called white man to do is put us through our punishment. That's why the scriptures call or refer to the so-called white man as the whipping stick. All right, he is the sword of the Most High. He's he does what the he's doing what the Most High wants him to do, and that's put punishment on you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and natives. All right, and I'm gonna put the link of this article because it's a couple more. It really gives you an insight of how these devils really think of you. All right. You know what? I'm gonna just read this paragraph right here, and then I'm gonna end it on that. It says the last thing, how we have them in containment, right? Because the whole title is they're still our slaves, and these are methods that they use on themselves to help the so-called white man keep us in that position, right? The last one is selfishness. It says selfishness ingrained in their minds through slavery is one of the major ways we can continue to contain them. One of their own, Dubois, said that there was an innate division in their culture. The talented tenth, he called. He was correcting the deduction that there are segments of their culture that has achieved some form of success. However, that segment missed the fullness of his work. They didn't read the talented tenth was then responsible to aid the non-talented 90% in achieving a better life. So basically he's saying the rich or the so-called wealthy of our nation, they don't do anything to help to help the others that are in that low state. All right, which is true. Once again, I could go back to Deuteronomy again. All right, Deuteronomy, I believe I just read 56. That's 54, right? It says, so that the man that is tender among you and very delicate, his eye shall be evil toward his brother. And that's true, because our people as a whole, I'm not talking about the elect. When I mean our people, I'm just speaking on generalities as far as the whole of Israel. Okay? Because of 1/3, the elect, Lord willing, I'm part of that number. We're not like the nation of Israel. We're not. We are tender and delicate amongst each other. We treat each other as brothers, as what should be done within Israel, right? But it says, so that the man that is tender and delicate among you is and eye is very delicate, his eye shall be evil, and that's why 2/3 of our people, they're wicked against each other, and they don't want the other man to rise. Okay, once again, that all goes back to the curses. All right, so the reason why this title, which says what? They are still our slaves, a white man's perspective on black people. This is why we're still under captivity. This is why every weekend, we continue to say that our people, we're still under subjection under these so-called under this damn devil. All right, and it's high time, our people wake out of it. And I'm not gonna bust a blood vessel, because I know the elect, the 1/3. I'm only talking to the elect. This is only knowledge for the elect. The 2/3, you're gonna reject this. You're not gonna agree with this. To hell with you, because you're just destined and slated for destruction. So this video is not for you anyway. This is only for the elect of our nation, which consists of you so-called Negroes, Latinos, and natives. All right, so that's just something I wanted to bring out. This article, I'm gonna put the link in the description so brothers could read it. And until the next time, shalom.